So, I completed Ghost of Tsushima recently on my PC in less than a week. Now, I already knew about the story from before, but still wanted to play it myself, and I have to say, it is a legendary game. I completed all of the main story, major side quests, and mythic tales, so I have a good insight on it right now. And being an Assassin's Creed fan, I thought why not to compare them and what Assassin's Creed could learn from Ghost of Tsushima. But before that, I would highly recommend you guys to like this video and feel free to subscribe to this channel if you want more Assassin's Creed content. Now, firstly, even after being an Assassin's Creed fan, I would say Ghost of Tsushima is way ahead than the recent RPG Assassin's Creed games, and there are multiple things at work. The first thing is the root cause of the structural problem in the recent RPG Assassin's Creed games, and that is way too much bloat and filler. Out of 60 hours of content, only 15 would be considered to be the main content in Assassin's Creed RPG games. The thing really impressed me about Ghost of Tsushima was that it never really bored me at any moment. Sure, there is a room for improvement, but it is still really enjoyable throughout the game and not like the recent RPG Assassin's Creed games, especially Valhalla and Odyssey. Origins kind of falls in that, but I would say that Origins was still a lot better and it was more engaging in my opinion throughout the game, and it did not have that many filler stuff in it. Now the next thing is that it depends on what type of player you are as well. Me personally, I can't tolerate too much filler content in between to progress in the story and upgrade your character. For an RPG player, it might be good that they want to have the grind to maybe get a certain gear or maybe reach a certain XP level before progressing further, but I don't have that much tolerance. That's why I like Ghost of Tsushima more. That sure, we did have to upgrade our character to have a better chance against better enemies, but the side quests are really intriguing and not boring like the RPG Assassin's Creed games. I would even go as far as to say that some of the side quests were actually as good as the main missions, so that was a really big thing for me to continue the story. With Valhalla and Odyssey, I somehow tried to proceed further in the story, and on God, that was a painful journey. The amount of filler that is there is insane, and even I won't wish that fate upon my enemies to play those horrific side quests, even parts of the main story. The mythic tales in Ghost of Tsushima were absolutely phenomenal, especially the ones in which we had to do the duels. And the duels in this game are probably my favorite thing out of all. I remember there was a mythic tale mission in which we had to duel 6 different Ronins. Man, that was so good, and it felt so good, like the whole aesthetic of doing the duel. We are standing on one side, the other guy is standing on the other side, we are both getting ready. It's kind of like the Wild West stuff, there's 2 people, one on the other side and one guy here, they kind of touch their revolver and boom, then they do it, like that. So it is kind of similar. It's also called duel, right? So I feel like the duels in Ghost of Tsushima are much better than the battles in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Sure, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the battle lasts more longer and there's so many enemies we could actually kill. From the top it looks more interesting, right, that we are actually fighting a battle. But I would say that the duels were much better because they were actually really challenging in my opinion compared to what the battles were in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Some of the enemies were kind of hard, some were not that hard, but still, it felt really good that we actually had to put some effort in it. Like the way the developers designed the side quests and the mythic tales felt like they actually did a pretty good amount of work on them. And especially the side quests of our partners. There were multiple side quests for each of our partners who were gonna help us in killing the Khan, and those same guys had their own missions, their own quests as well. And the conclusion in most of them were really satisfying, like the ending of the main story itself. The side stories were absolutely insane and they were really good in my opinion. Now, speaking of the main story, Ghost of Tsushima is absolutely amazing in terms of how it starts. In the beginning, we are in the battle and it already starts with a conflict that hooks us immediately into the story. That kind of reminds me of God of War 3's opening sequence, how everything was so happening and we were constantly engaged. On the other hand, while Assassin's Creed games do start good, they just do not continue that intensity. Like for example, in Odyssey, it starts pretty good with the whole war scene, but after that, it kind of slows down a bit, and the same template is kind of used in Assassin's Creed Valhalla as well, that again the game starts with a war, then again they just completely change the whole scenario after that. Similar case I would say would be in Assassin's Creed Mirage as well. Though it is not an RPG game, the game starts with a conflict, but they just throw it away after that. Like, if you guys have played it, I don't want to give like exact spoilers, but if you guys remember, like in the beginning of Assassin's Creed Mirage, we are out of this, big mess, and then we go to Baghdad, and everything just, calms down. Like, the intensity is not continued. We are actually just starting it again. So I feel like with these games, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War 3, they actually continued the sort of conflict. The intensity was still there. It was little less, but it was still there. You did not get bored after that. In Assassin's Creed Mirage, it got a little boring despite the fact that we were actually constantly playing the main missions. One thing in almost every RPG game is that you have to level your character by playing side quests, otherwise you'd have a very hard time. And Ghost of Tsushima handled that pretty well, and on the other hand, in Assassin's Creed RPG games, that felt painful. Ghost of Tsushima has really good written side quests compared to their Assassin's Creed counterparts. Side missions in the Assassin's Creed games feels like we are just doing just for the sake of completing them and taking the rewards and gaining XP. You actually don't really enjoy the journey of doing those missions. Like in Ghost of Tsushima, every major character has their own quest, as I mentioned before, and I really like that. It gets us to see more of the characters, which gives them more personality. You actually feel close to those characters and want to know what was their history and what's gonna happen with them later. In RPG Assassin's Creed games, you don't really have that connection with the side characters. They just feel unalive, like a random NPC. One thing that contributes to this is that the cutscenes and the overall screenplay writing is not done that well in Assassin's Creed games. Most of the dialogues and conversations are borderline cringe at certain moments, and the characters talk like AIs and not actual human beings. Sometimes it just does not even feel like Ubisoft is focusing that much on this voice acting aspect and completely ignoring it. There are no mocap cutscenes, and even if there is no mocap, at least they can have some good sound recordings of the characters that feel genuine, but still it's not there. Sometimes I think they are literally using AI to voice the characters by just using the voice samples of the voice actors. This feels like lazy work in my opinion. Ghost of Tsushima's cutscene feel a lot more natural, and even in certain places where it's actually not a cutscene, it still feels that the voice acting is done good enough for being authentic. And the atmosphere is also very solid in Ghost of Tsushima, really calm. It just gives a mystical vibe. I would say this was kind of present in the older Assassin's Creed games a lot. One thing to create this atmosphere is the sound design in my opinion. Like the background music, the sound effects, and environment sounds all combined together, they will serve you with enhancing the impact of the gameplay even more. I would say that Assassin's Creed kind of does it good still, but it has a room for improvement. As I mentioned before about the duel, the combat in Ghost of Tsushima feels so much better than the combat of Assassin's Creed. Though we only have the katana, it actually helps the developers to refine one single weapon, and I really like that. I just don't find the combat of Assassin's Creed games that satisfying compared to Ghost of Tsushima. I do think Ghost of Tsushima could have the target lock thing which is there in RPG Assassin's Creed games, but it still worked. In some tighter places though, fighting enemies was pretty bad, I have to admit that. But overall, I would say that combat was really solid in this game, and the AIs in this game felt a lot better than Assassin's Creed games as well. Now, keep in mind I said better and not the best. I still feel like the AIs are pretty bad in most of the games, so we have to compare it relatively. I would say Rockstar Games does this job pretty well, whether you see it in Red Dead Redemption or Grand Theft Auto. And you might actually find this funny, but the stealth and assassinations in this game also felt way better than the recent Assassin's Creed games. Now it's pretty hilarious how the game is called Assassin's Creed, but still the assassination, the stealth part is not there that good in that game. And Ghost of Tsushima does that much better than the recent AC games. Like, could you imagine that there is chain assassination in this game that is better than the recent Assassin's Creed games? In the recent Assassin's Creed games, you can assassinate a guy and then throw a weapon on the next guy, that's it. In Ghost of Tsushima, you could properly assassinate up to 3 targets by it flawlessly, and you don't even have to throw it, he's just gonna do it by his sword. And it really feels so good, that is insane, that looks good as well. Obviously you need to upgrade your skills in order to unlock that, but when you do, it looks really good. And I feel like at least Assassin's Creed games should have this option in the skill tree. Even if it's not on default, we should be able to upgrade this, right? Overall, I would say that Assassin's Creed could learn from Ghost of Tsushima in the story, whether the main mission or the side missions, the characters, combat, some parts of the stealth. Also, Assassin's Creed games seriously need some good writers and voice actors that don't produce cringe. You play the recent Assassin's Creed games and play games like Ghost of Tsushima or Red Dead Redemption, you're gonna see the difference of earth and sky. The voice acting is horrible and cringe-worthy at instances in the recent RPG Assassin's Creed games, and also I would include Mirage in it. And the most important part is the bloat. As I mentioned before, at least 70% of the story content in RPG Assassin's Creed games are just fillers to somehow let you get more XP. You are not doing it out of interest but out of compulsion. Sure, for RPG players it is heaven. It's their type of game and I won't comment, but most RPG players don't really prioritize the narrative aspect of the game. They just want to grind and upgrade their gears and they get dopamine hits after that. One thing I see is that Ghost of Tsushima is played by a variety of people because it has a digestible story, and RPG Assassin's Creed games are mostly played by the strict RPG fans more. The more OG sort of Assassin's Creed fans don't really find it that interesting in my opinion. Sure, I have a channel on Assassin's Creed so I have to talk about it, but I actually don't consider the Assassin's Creed RPG games as my cup of tea. I definitely find games like Ghost of Tsushima, Red Dead Redemption, Witcher to be a lot better than the Assassin's Creed RPG games. You know, the only time I might hop on the RPG Assassin's Creed games is when I'm really bored, but generally, you know, I'm not gonna do that. Ghost of Tsushima, meanwhile being an RPG game, attracts people who are not even RPG players because of its story. Because a good written story is pretty universal, and no matter what genre you like in game, you're gonna still find a game with a good story good. And that's how Ghost of Tsushima is pretty reputable between normies, and Assassin's Creed is currently hated by normies because of the bloatedness and the bad reputation of Ubisoft as well because of their, you know, monetization policies. And even I, being a hardcore Assassin's Creed fan, would tell you that Ghost of Tsushima is an objectively better game than RPG Assassin's Creed games. And you know, the things I mentioned that were present in Ghost of Tsushima can be easily implemented in the Assassin's Creed games. Sure, you should not copy it completely, but you know, it can take inspiration from that. There's nothing wrong with it. But anyways guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it by the way. Make sure to like this video and consider subscribing to this channel. And comment down your thoughts and what you personally think that Assassin's Creed games can take away from Ghost of Tsushima. And I'll see you guys in the next one.